Welcome to The Village, a podcast focusing on the students, staff, and community members that make a village elementary unique. We are your hosts today. I am Grayson.
I'm McKenna.
I'm Noah.
And I'm Mrs. Evans.
Today we have a very special guest who some of you may remember from when he was at Village.
I will give you a hint. He is tall, he loves his coffee, and he is always happy to see you.
If you guessed Mr. Martin, you're right. He was our principal here for a few years, but now he is the principal at the Emporia Middle School.
Welcome, Mr. Martin. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself for those of our listeners that might not know you?
Well, I'm the principal at Emporia Middle School, and before that I was the principal here at Village Elementary for about 4 years. Always enjoyed Emporia. Before I was at Village, I was also at Emporia Middle School as an assistant principal and athletic director.
We are so happy you are here with us today. As our listeners know, Eagle Leaders are working on a short series of the podcast all about 7 habits of happy kids. You may heard them called the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Our first episode discussed what habits are, and our second episode covered habit number 1, which is be proactive. Mr. Martin is here today to talk to us about habit number 2, which is begin with the end in mind.
This habit is all about thinking about the future. Begin with the end in mind means to think about how you would like something to turn out before you get started.
For example, if you are putting a puzzle together, you look at the picture on the box first so you would know how it's supposed to turn out.
Or if you're cooking something, you read the recipe and get out all the ingredients first so you are ready to cook.
That's exactly right. We have to start with a goal in mind and then make a plan to get there. Mr. Martin, what does this habit mean to you?
Well, I think that you guys made some great examples of how that works. Anything that I do at the middle school or even when I was here at Village, one of the things that I always thought about is how do I want it to look in the end? So when Miss Evans and I were talking about a podcast, one of the things that we talked about is, number one, what type of equipment would we need? What kind of stories would we want to tell? Who our audience was going to be. So we always take a look at what you want it to be at the end. I mean, everybody uses these 7 habits. In my family, we use them as well. Just last weekend, my son and I were looking at, he wanted to rearrange his room. So before we started anything, we started talking about, okay, so how do you want it to look in the end? Where do you want your bed? Where do you want your toy table? Those types of things. But in realistic terms, I just wanted him to clean his room because it's a mess. And so we were able to kind of get through what he wanted, what I wanted, but the bottom line was we had to know what it was going to look like in the end.
So how did it turn out?
It turned out I did a lot of work and he played. And so the toys just got to kind of move slowly across the room with him. But eventually I ended up having to take over. He had a good time. I did not.
Is there any advice you can give us to prepare for middle school?
Well, again, the middle school is going to be very similar to here with some of the things that we do. You're going to have some where you're going to have English language arts and not reading. You're going to have some math. You're going to have some social studies. You're going to have some science. But you're going to have to plan out about what else you want to do. We have some really cool classes over there that you can take, kind of like a stream class. We have what we call Spartan Media, where the kids who take this class get to actually put together our yearbook, and they get to do a podcast, and they get to do some things like that. So you're going to have to kind of make some decisions about, well, what do I want to know a little bit more about? So not only do we have classes that you can take, we also have clubs after school. I was talking to a teacher just yesterday, and one of the things that kids can do after school is they can obviously go home, but you can also stay at school and learn more about things you want to know about. One of the teachers that I was talking to, like I was saying, has a Star Wars club, and they come in and they just talk about Star Wars. We have a Lego club. We also have a running club. We have all these different things and activities to try to find out what you want to be and who you want to be when you grow up. But So you kind of have to put that in mind. What do I want to do? Do I want to, maybe as a 7th or 8th grader, maybe I want to run cross country. So maybe I should go to running club and find out what that's all about before I start. So there are lots of things that as you go through middle school, you get to kind of see, well, maybe I want to try that. And if I like that, I can pursue that. And if I don't, I can try something else.
How do you guys think that relates to this habit of beginning with the end in mind?
Finding something you can do to like work to your goal and get better.
Yeah, definitely.
And something you enjoy,
Yeah.
because you want to be able, and that's something that I always kind of I talked to Miss Evans about, is I like coming to work every day. I love coming to Village. I love talking to kids. And so when I was a younger person, much younger, I enjoyed going to school. So I kind of knew that's something I wanted to do when I grew up, because I wanted to be in a school. I like kids. So it made an easy decision for me, but I had to plan that and see that at the very end. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a coach. So how do I get there? And that started in junior high, middle school, and then on to high school and then college for me.
How does this habit relate to being a principal?
Oh gosh, everything I do. Whenever there's a task, it's funny. I don't know if you guys heard. We had a water main break the other day. Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
So within an hour and a half, I had to feed 900 students, make sure that they all had information to their parents, and all be out of the building because we didn't have water to go to the bathroom or get a drink or anything like that. So we started with the end in mind. How are we going to get everybody lunch and safely home? And so then we had to go backwards and figure out our steps to get people in place. So where are we going to have parents sign out their students? How are we going to get kids to the buses? All those things had to be done, and they had to be done really fast, and it was really important. So when we do things, we always have, what is our end game? What is the goal that we want done? So those are the things that happen to me every day.
Is setting goals a habit of yours?
Yes, it is. And setting goals are very important to me. And everybody kind of does it a different way. What I do is I'm kind of old school. I use my Ticonderoga pencil, and I write down a list of things that I want to do and make sure that I get done. And I usually have a little short-term goal about what I need to maybe do today, kind of a mid-term goal, what I'm going to do this week or maybe next week, and then a long-term goal, what I want to do by the end of this school year or maybe even next year. So I write all those down, and about every week I review them and kind of see where I am on things. So it's always very important to keep in mind, how you use goals, and to me they're very important.
What is a goal that you set in the past, and did you accomplish it?
Well, I think the first goal I really kind of wanted to, that I really truly set for myself, was to get done with a college degree and teach. So back when I started going to school, it was very much right now you can do some things online and do some classes on the internet. We didn't have that. We actually had to pace out and plan our entire 4 years of college to figure out where we wanted to be. And so for me, that was the first thing. I realized that's a big goal for me, was to complete my college and then start teaching. And so planning that out, and the neat thing about planning is you can have this goal, plan it in detail, but then sometimes things happen that make you change. And it's important to be able to change and still meet that goal. Sometimes when I was in college, they didn't offer a class when they said they were going to offer a class, and I had to change my schedule and adapt to that. So it's very important to kind of set that goal, but be willing to be flexible in your decision making.
Is there a goal that you are working on currently?
Today is to get through the podcast without saying something completely goofy. But also for me, it's very important to do some planning. In my office at work, I have a calendar up, and believe it or not, it already has next year's August starting to get planned. So this year's 5th graders, who are going to be 6th graders next year, I am going to already have a plan for how they're going to come in to be introduced to the middle school. So we're constantly planning. Yesterday we had a meeting about what we were going to do next November. So as things go, I always try to plan ahead and at least a year. So we're looking at what we're going to do in November of 2024, already. So we're constantly planning, setting goals, looking at things, and obviously things will change, but it's important to kind of have a base of what you want to get done.
What is one thing you want to do in the future?
I kind of wish that your stream class would put together a formula to grow hair back. That would be good. Maybe it's a goal to have some hair grow back. My eyebrows are looking good though. It's just the hair on top of my head. No, in realistic terms, I'd like to do more travel. But I have to do things like, this weekend we have the Nutcracker. My daughter dances in the Nutcracker, so I'll be at the Nutcracker watching 4 shows. I like to call it, and I'm sure she won't hear this, but I like to call it my annual nap, where I go in and listen to music and I fall asleep in the theater. But as things go, those are some things I want to do. Is I'd like to travel more.
How can you work towards that goal?
Probably work less, which is kind of tough. So as we go, what I'd like to do is make sure that, and part of the 7 habits is making sure you take care of yourself, and that's something that I think that everybody needs to do a little bit more of, is make sure you take care of yourself, and I need to take that advice too. So I need to make sure that I always tell people, especially staff and teachers, is your family always comes first, and that's something that I need to probably practice a little better.
Have you ever set a goal that you have not reached?
Oh, sure. Like I said, you set a goal, you put a plan together, then you start working towards that goal. Sometimes things happen. I think one of the stranger goals that you guys all went through was, in early March of 2020, we were planning on what we were going to do for the last quarter of the school year. And if you guys remember right, we had to shut schools down and switch to technology to meet things. There are things that I wanted to get done during that time frame that I didn't get done, but we did the best we could, and I didn't worry about it too much. But there are things that we really wanted to get done that we didn't get done that year, and so we had to understand that we had to operate a little differently. But I think things went well. I had some great people that I worked with, and you guys were easy to work with, so we were able to get through that, and we're kind of back to normal now.
How do you think that beginning with the end in mind can help us?
Well, I think it never hurts to have a goal or an idea, a finish line to cross. So as you guys are doing things and planning about how you want your life to go, I think it's always good to think, well, what do I want to do when I grow up? And I would always give the advice of do things that you enjoy. So as you look to make a career decision and what classes you want to take and what you want to do in the summer or even in the evenings, just do you enjoy doing it? And so just make sure that you get to that point where you enjoy going to basketball practice or you enjoy going to dance class or those types of things that you do, and then maybe try to find something that you can do later in life that you enjoy.
I always like to ask our guests, what's a piece of advice, other than all the stuff that we've already talked about, that is great advice, what's a piece of advice you could offer our listeners? We have students that will be listening, community members. What advice could you give to them?
The advice I would give you is understand you're not just by yourself. You have a great support system here. So as you set goals and you go through life, if you have a concern or something that you need help with, there's great people around you to help you. I know that when I worked here at Village and I was the principal, I had some really good teachers I worked with. And I would tell them all the time, I don't have all the answers, but the answers are in this room. So in anything that was wrong at Village could be fixed at Village. And I really counted on people like Mrs. Mitchell and Mrs. Evans and Mrs. Ayers and Miss McCoy when she was here as well, to really kind of help guide us through and what we needed to do. And our teachers were great. And I always like to have input from the teachers. There's some really good teachers here that would come in or be on our building leadership team. So just if you don't have the answer, it doesn't hurt to ask. And I don't have all the answers. I kind of thought I would after all this time, but I don't. And so if I have a question, I'm not afraid to call Miss Evans or give her a text, or Mrs. Mitchell or Mrs. Carlson or Mrs. Meyer. Those are some great people, and I know that they give me great answers.
That's definitely important to remember, that there's always people to lean on no matter where you are.
Have you ever heard about the 7 habits of happy kids?
You know, I haven't heard of the 7 habits of happy kids. I've heard the other 7 habits. When I worked at a school, we used the 7 habits as a way to work with students as well. So I really like them, and I think that they're all very relevant to what you're doing. So what are your favorite habits that you guys have worked through?
I don't know.
You don't like the end in mind, keep the goal?
I do, but I don't know which one is my favorite.
I kind of like, and we were talking about the last one being kind of taking care of yourself, sharpening your
Sharpen the
saw.
yeah.
I think that's very important because I think just especially as educators, I think that they're so giving and they do so much for so many other people that sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. And it's very important to take care of yourself.
Do you guys have any final questions for Mr. Martin?
Nope.
Okay. Well, what do we say?
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Martin.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's great to see you guys again. And you're much taller than I remember you last time. So either that or I'm shrinking. That could be because I'm getting
Maybe it's a
old.
little bit of both.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Maybe they'll be a little taller once they see
Yeah,
the middle
and
school.
I'm sure they will be.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right, well,
and
thanks.
We will talk soon.
All right, great.